You know that moment when you realize you've been the ghost in every success your company celebrated? That hollow feeling when you see your name buried in some technical appendix while the big shots take all the credit up front? That was me sitting in the break room at 7:30 a.m. staring at my coffee like it held the answers to 25 years of getting passed over. Name's Roger Bennett. I'm 52, been grinding away as senior manufacturing engineer at Bennett Industrial Solutions since I got out of the Army in 1998. Yeah, the company's got my last name on it because my grandfather started this place back in 1952. Built it from nothing into one of the Midwest's premier automotive parts manufacturers, employing 340 people across 2 shifts. 3 generations of Bennett's kept the lights on, kept the workers employed, kept the orders flowing to Ford and GM. But here's the thing nobody talks about in family businesses: just because your name's on the building doesn't mean you get a seat at the big table. Not anymore. I joined straight out of the service, where I'd spent 8 years fixing everything from Humvee transmissions to generator systems in places I can't pronounce. The Army taught me that complex problems usually have simple solutions if you understand how things actually work. Dad was still alive then, still fighting to keep our piece of the company my grandfather had built. But by 1985, Richard Caldwell had started buying us out, piece by piece. Smart businessman Richard knew how to make offers that looked generous but left us with less control each year. When Dad passed in 2019, the buyout was complete. Caldwell owned 100% of Bennett Industrial Solutions. We kept the name for brand recognition, but the Bennetts were officially employees in our own company. I could have been bitter about it, but honestly, I loved the work. There's something satisfying about taking a customer's impossible specs and figuring out how to make them real. Like our current gold mine, the Ford F-150 brake caliper contract. $23 million a year through 2027. I'd spent 8 months in 2021 redesigning our entire casting process to meet Ford's new weight and performance specifications. Worked nights and weekends, brought the whole thing in 18% under budget and 3 weeks ahead of schedule. The kind of engineering work that keeps 200 families fed and a company profitable. Alexandra Caldwell presented it to the board like she'd invented fire. My name showed up once in the 47-page presentation, slide 34, buried in the technical acknowledgments between the legal disclaimers and the appendix. Alex took over as CEO 18 months ago when Richard finally stepped down at 71. She came in fresh from Wharton with an MBA and about as much hands-on manufacturing experience as my coffee mug. But she had energy, I'll give her that. Energy and a vocabulary full of consulting buzzwords that made the board members nod like they understood what synergistic digital transformation actually meant. The conference room door was closed again. Same story, different Tuesday. I'd walked past her office around 9 a.m., seeing her through the glass walls gesturing at her laptop screen while 3 suits from McKinsey nodded along like bobbleheads. You could smell the strategy consulting fees from the hallway, probably 50 grand a month to tell us what those of us who actually built things already knew. What really got to me wasn't the meetings I wasn't invited to. It was watching good ideas get filtered through PowerPoints until they became unrecognizable. Take our efficiency improvements from last quarter. I'd suggested relocating the quality control station to catch defects earlier in the process. Saved us 12% in rework costs and improved delivery times. By the time it reached the board, it had become part of Alex's comprehensive quality optimization initiative, leveraging lean manufacturing principles. Still, at 52, with my 401k finally looking healthy and retirement a decade away, I figured I'd coast. Keep my head down, train the next generation of engineers, maybe do some consulting work when I turned 62. The plant was humming, orders were steady, and I had my 67 Camaro restoration project to keep me busy on weekends. Then Klaus Hoffmann walked into my life and changed everything. Hoffmann Engineering AG wanted to partner with an American manufacturer to crack the domestic market. German precision engineering meets Midwestern work ethic. The numbers looked good on paper: $72 million over 5 years. Biggest contract in company history, nearly doubling our annual revenue. I'd spent 6 months working the technical due diligence. 2 trips to Munich, weeks with their engineers understanding their automated assembly processes. Klaus and I clicked immediately, 2 guys in our 50s who believed in building things that lasted. He kept calling me the real engineer and asking detailed questions about our production capabilities that only I could answer. Klaus had seen too many American partnerships fail because the business types took over once the contracts were signed. So when we drafted the preliminary agreement, I pushed for a clause in Section 12.4C requiring senior technical oversight from Bennett Industrial's lead engineer throughout all implementation phases. Klaus insisted on it too. He wanted assurance that the person who understood both American manufacturing realities and German engineering standards would stay involved. Alex signed it without reading the fine print. Just another checkbox to move the deal forward. So imagine my surprise when Patty Walsh from Finance accidentally CC'd me on an email about rental cars for the Chicago Manufacturing Expo next week. The whole leadership team would be there. Alex was giving the keynote about manufacturing excellence in the digital age. Klaus Hoffmann was flying in from Munich as the guest of honor. I scrolled through the 12-person attendee list twice looking for my name. Nothing. Called Patty to double-check. "Oh, Roger, didn't Alex mention she's keeping the team small this year, just the core leadership group?" Core leadership. Right. The core leadership group that somehow didn't include the guy who designed half the systems Klaus wanted to partner with. That evening, sitting in my garage with the Camaro's engine torn apart on my workbench, I got an email that would change everything. Subject line: Speaking Opportunity, Chicago Manufacturing Expo. Usually I delete those conference invitations within seconds. Get them a few times a year from trade organizations looking to fill Thursday afternoon panels. But something made me click this one open. They wanted me to speak about traditional manufacturing excellence in the modern era. Thursday morning, main stage, right after Alex's keynote. The timing wasn't coincidence. Someone had done their homework about who actually knew what at Bennett Industrial. Klaus Hoffmann was listed as a confirmed attendee for my session. I stared at that email for 20 minutes, engine parts spread across my workbench, grease under my fingernails. For the first time in months, I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge is just showing up where you're supposed to be. I accepted the invitation without telling a soul at Bennett Industrial, used 2 personal days, booked my own room at a Holiday Inn, loaded my pickup truck with presentation materials I'd been developing for internal training sessions. No company credit card, no travel approval forms, no corporate oversight. Just me and my 25 years of actual experience heading to McCormick Place. The expo was exactly what I expected: 60,000 square feet of the latest manufacturing technology, robotics demonstrations, and trade show booths stretching beyond sight lines. Real engineers solving real problems, not consultant-heavy conferences where people talked about manufacturing instead of actually doing it. Wednesday afternoon, I checked in and spent hours walking the floor. Stopped by the Hoffmann engineering booth, impressive setup showcasing their latest automated assembly systems, integrated with quality control sensors. Klaus wasn't there yet, but his team was calibrating demonstrations for Thursday's sessions. I introduced myself to their lead technician, a guy named Werner who'd been with Hoffmann for 15 years. We talked shop for 30 minutes about pneumatic systems and tolerance control. Real engineering conversation. That evening at the hotel bar, I ran into Michael Torres, our plant operations manager, and Rick Anderson from the local union. They were attending sessions on workplace safety technology and new OSHA compliance requirements. "Roger, what brings you here?" thought Alex said only leadership was coming. "I'm speaking tomorrow morning, manufacturing excellence session." Michael's eyebrows went up. "Does Alex know?" "She will." Around 8 p.m., Alex and her entourage swept into the hotel restaurant like they were arriving at a merger announcement. 3 McKinsey consultants, 2 board members, and Janet from marketing, all dressed for a corporate gala instead of a manufacturing conference. Alex spotted me immediately at the bar. Her expression cycled through confusion, annoyance, and calculation before settling on forced professional courtesy. She approached alone, leaving her team at their reserved table. "Roger, I wasn't aware you'd be attending. Speaking tomorrow, about manufacturing excellence, the kind that actually works. We should coordinate our messaging. My keynote covers similar themes." I took a sip of my beer. "I'm sure it does. Perhaps we could review your presentation tonight, ensure consistency." "Nothing to review, Alex. I'll be talking about real engineering solutions to real manufacturing challenges. Same stuff I've been doing for 25 years. Behind her, the consultants were checking their phones and whispering, probably calculating billable hours for crisis management. "This is a significant partnership opportunity, Roger. We need unified representation." "Absolutely. Klaus will finally meet the engineer who actually designed the systems he wants to integrate with." Alex's smile tightened. "We'll discuss this tomorrow." I finished my beer and headed for the elevator. In the reflection of the closing doors, I could see Alex making urgent phone calls. Thursday morning came with typical Chicago autumn weather, crisp, clear, perfect for business. I arrived at McCormick Place early, checked my presentation slides one final time. 25 minutes of practical manufacturing solutions, no buzzwords, no theory that couldn't be implemented on Monday morning. Alex's keynote started at 9 a.m. sharp. I sat in the back of the 800-seat auditorium, watching her deliver a polished presentation about digital transformation ecosystems and Industry 4.0 paradigm shifts. The audience, mostly plant managers, maintenance supervisors, and senior technicians, listened politely, but looked like they were hearing someone explain quantum physics in a foreign language. Klaus Hoffmann sat in the third row, checking his phone periodically and taking notes that didn't seem enthusiastic. When Alex finished to respectful but lukewarm applause, I made my way backstage. Patricia, the event coordinator, handed me my wireless microphone pack. "Mr. Bennett, you ready? Good crowd out there." Manufacturing folks love hearing from people who've actually run production lines, been ready for 25 years. I walked onto that stage and looked out at 800 people who understood what it meant to take engineering drawings and turn them into reality. Plant managers who'd fought budget battles to keep equipment running, supervisors who'd trained 3 generations of workers, maintenance chiefs who could diagnose problems by sound alone. "Good morning, I'm Roger Bennett. I've been building things for 25 years and I want to talk about manufacturing that actually works, not manufacturing that sounds good in PowerPoint presentations." The audience leaned forward. These people knew the difference. I clicked to my first slide, a photograph of our production line from 1999 next to the same line today, showing gradual improvements over 2 decades. This is what sustainable excellence looks like. Not dramatic transformation, but steady evolution. Every change tested, every improvement proven, every upgrade profitable. I walked them through the Ford brake caliper project, explaining how we'd solved casting defects through methodical experimentation, not digital consulting. How we'd improved efficiency by listening to workers who'd been running the equipment for years, not by implementing theories from people who'd never worked a shift. Klaus was taking detailed notes now, leaning forward with interest. Halfway through, I reached the slide that would change everything. A photograph of our proposed integration with Hoffman Engineering appeared on the screen behind me. Detailed technical drawings showing how German automation could enhance American production without replacing American workers. Sometimes the best partnerships happen between people who respect what each other brings to the table. Engineers who understand that experience matters just as much as innovation, that the person who designed the system probably ought to have input on how it evolves. I caught Klaus's eye. He nodded slightly, understanding exactly what I meant. But too often, we let people who've never built anything make decisions about how things should be built. We let consultants who've never met a production deadline set production schedules. We let MBAs who've never worked a shift determine what workers need. The applause started before I finished the sentence. 800 people who'd lived this frustration stood up and clapped like I'd just scored the winning touchdown. Not polite conference applause, but the real appreciation of people who'd finally heard someone speak their language. I spent the next 15 minutes walking them through practical integration strategies. How German precision engineering could complement American manufacturing pragmatism if you kept the right people in the room. How automation could increase quality and capacity without eliminating jobs if you planned properly and trained workers for higher-skilled positions. When I finished, the standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Klaus Hoffmann was the first person to reach me afterward. "Roger, that was outstanding. Real engineering, not consultant theory. This is exactly what I hope to hear from American manufacturing." We shook hands while someone from Manufacturing Today snapped a photograph. Just 2 engineers discussing technical integration at a manufacturing conference. Nothing unusual about it, except for the context everyone at Bennett Industrial would understand. My badge was clearly visible. Roger Bennett, Senior Manufacturing Engineer, Bennett Industrial Solutions. The backdrop behind us read, Chicago Manufacturing Expo 2024 International Partnership Summit. I posted the photo on LinkedIn that afternoon with a simple caption, "Real engineering partnerships built on mutual respect and practical experience." No tags, no mentions, no drama, just a professional photo of 2 professionals at a professional conference. But anyone from Bennett Industrial who saw it would understand immediately that while Alex was giving buzzword presentations, I was building actual relationships with actual partners. By Friday morning, my phone showed 23 missed calls. The emergency board meeting was called for Friday afternoon. I knew because Patty Walsh accidentally forwarded me the calendar invite before realizing her mistake and sending a frantic recall notice. Too late, I'd already taken a screenshot. The agenda was simple. 1. Chicago Expo Situation Assessment. 2. Hoffman Partnership Status Review. 3. Personnel Action Discussion. Personnel Action. Corporate speak for somebody's getting fired. I didn't rush back from Chicago. Took my time driving through Indiana, stopped for lunch at a truck stop near Lafayette, filled up and grabbed coffee. Let them stew in whatever panic was consuming that conference room. My phone kept buzzing with calls and texts from Alex, all of which I ignored. Whatever crisis was unfolding, they'd created it themselves. Friday afternoon at Bennett Industrial, the parking lot looked like a legal convention. Unfamiliar cars, suits walking in and out with briefcases, the kind of urgent activity that meant someone was about to get served papers. I badged in normally, nodded to Janet at reception, walked to my office. On my desk sat a printed email marked Urgent Report to Conference Room immediately. I deleted it without reading the rest. Instead, I opened my laptop and checked my messages. Klaus Hoffman had sent an email at 7 a.m. Munich time. Roger, excellent presentation yesterday. However, I received concerning communications from Ms. Caldwell's office this morning suggesting changes to our agreed technical oversight structure. Please clarify your role status immediately, as this impacts our partnership timeline. I forwarded Klaus's email to Alex with a simple reply. As specified in Section 12.4c of our preliminary agreement, all strategic implementation requires senior technical oversight from Bennett Industrial's lead engineer. Looking forward to our next planning session. Then I hit send and waited. Took exactly 5 minutes for my office phone to ring. Roger. Conference room. Now. I'll be right there, Alex. The conference room looked like a crisis management center. Alex at the head of the table, flanked by 2 lawyers and the lead McKinsey consultant. Board members appearing on the wall monitor from various locations, all looking like they'd been dragged out of weekend activities. Papers scattered everywhere, multiple coffee cups, stress radiating from every face. Roger, sit down. I remained standing. What's the situation? The senior lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman from downtown Chicago, slid a document across the polished table. Mr. Bennett, this is formal notification regarding unauthorized representation of company interests at yesterday's conference. I glanced at the papers without touching them. Unauthorized? I was invited to speak about manufacturing excellence. Last I checked, that's what I do. You implied authority to speak for Bennett Industrial without proper clearance. Did I? I introduced myself as Roger Bennett, Senior Manufacturing Engineer, which is exactly what my badge says. I discussed manufacturing techniques I've developed over 25 years of experience. All factual. Alex was turning red. You compromised our Hoffman relationship. Klaus is asking questions about your role that we can't answer without disrupting our strategic messaging. Can't answer? That's interesting, because the contract you signed 6 months ago answers them pretty clearly. I pulled out my phone, opened the partnership agreement PDF, and read Section 12.4c aloud to the room. All strategic planning and implementation phases require senior technical oversight from Bennett Industrial's lead manufacturing engineer due to unique knowledge of integrated American-German manufacturing protocols. The room went silent, except for the air conditioning humming overhead. You signed this, Alex. Klaus insisted on it. I negotiated it. And now you're upset because Klaus expects the agreement to be honored? One of the board members on the monitor cleared his throat. Roger, help us understand Klaus's specific concerns. What exactly did he communicate? I shared Klaus's email on the room's display system, letting them read his questions about concerning communications and changes to the technical oversight structure. Klaus isn't stupid. He's been burned before by American partnerships where the engineers got sidelined once the contracts were signed. He came to Chicago expecting to work with the people who actually understand both manufacturing cultures, not to hear consultant presentations about synergistic paradigm shifts. Alex was whispering urgently with the lawyers, while the McKinsey consultant frantically flipped through contract documents. The fact is, I continued, you can't complete this deal without honoring the oversight clause. Not because I'm irreplaceable, but because you legally committed to including senior technical leadership in all implementation phases. Klaus won't move forward if he thinks you're cutting out the engineers he needs to work with. That's when my phone buzzed with a new email. The sender made everyone in the room tense up. Hoffman Engineering Legal Department. Well, this should be interesting, I said, opening the message and reading it silently first. The room waited while I scrolled through 2 paragraphs of formal German legal language translated into precise English. Klaus has made his decision, I announced, looking around the conference table. Hoffman Engineering is suspending all partnership negotiations with Bennett Industrial Solutions effective immediately. They're citing concerns about organizational transparency and adherence to agreed technical oversight protocols. Alex went pale. $72 million? Gone, I nodded. Because you couldn't stand having the guy who actually built the systems in the room when you discussed how to integrate them with German engineering. The board members on screen started talking over each other. The lawyers huddled around their copies of the contract looking for escape clauses that didn't exist. The McKinsey consultant was already calculating how to spin this disaster into a learning opportunity for future client presentations. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, there's one more thing. I got another email this morning. I pulled up the message on my phone and read the subject line aloud. Direct Technical Consulting Opportunity Hoffman American Engineering Partnership. Klaus wants to discuss a joint venture. Something about working directly with engineers who understand both manufacturing cultures. Apparently, he thinks American practical experience combined with German precision might work better without what he called unnecessary corporate intermediaries. The room erupted. Board members shouting through the video connection, lawyers demanding to see the consulting offer, Alex firing questions at consultants who suddenly had no answers about contract law or partnership negotiations. I left them to sort it out and walked back to my office. Over the weekend, I had 3 long phone conversations with Klaus. He'd been frustrated with American corporate culture for months, watching good engineering projects get buried under layers of business school theory. The Chicago conference had convinced him that direct partnerships with experienced engineers might succeed where traditional corporate deals had failed. Monday morning brought Alex's resignation announcement. She was pursuing new opportunities in strategic consulting. The McKinsey team packed up their whiteboards and buzzword frameworks. The board hired Tom Richardson as interim CEO, a 30-year manufacturing veteran who'd started as a machinist and worked his way up through actual production experience. My phone rang Tuesday afternoon, Klaus calling from Munich. Roger, I have a proposal, Hoffman Bennett Engineering Solutions. 60-40 partnership, with you holding the American majority. We build a new facility in Ohio, create 250 jobs, combine German automation with American manufacturing wisdom. The numbers made sense. Hoffman would provide advanced robotics and precision engineering expertise. I'd bring 25 years of automotive manufacturing knowledge and relationships with Ford, GM, and their supplier networks. Klaus had already identified a 200,000 square foot facility in Dayton that could be operational within 8 months. What about Bennett? Industrial? I asked. They can be our first major client, Klaus said. Tom Richardson called me yesterday. He wants to discuss a supplier relationship once we're operational. It took 2 weeks to negotiate the partnership agreement. Klaus flew to Chicago, and we spent 4 days hammering out technical specifications, production targets, and profit-sharing arrangements. Real engineering discussions about real manufacturing challenges, not consultant presentations about theoretical synergies. The press release went out on a Thursday. Hoffman Engineering and Bennett form Strategic American Manufacturing Partnership. The announcement mentioned my role as Chief Technical Officer and co-founder, responsible for American operations and client relationships. That afternoon, I cleaned out my office at Bennett Industrial Solutions. 25 years of engineering drawings, project files, and manufacturing memories packed into 6 boxes. Tom Richardson stopped by as I was loading my truck. Roger, you know there's always a place here for you. I appreciate that, Tom. But it's time to build something new. He shook my hand. Klaus is lucky to have you. So are those 250 workers you'll be hiring. Friday evening, I sat in my garage with the Camaro finally reassembled, engine purring like it was meant to. My phone showed 47 LinkedIn messages from engineers wanting to join the new venture, 12 inquiries from potential clients, and 3 interview requests from manufacturing trade publications. The nameplate for my new office had arrived that afternoon. Roger Bennett, Chief Technical Officer, Hoffman Bennett Engineering Solutions. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just being exactly who you've always been and letting everyone else figure out they needed you more than you needed them. Sometimes it's walking away from people who never saw your value and building something new with people who do. At 52, I wasn't coasting toward retirement anymore. I was just getting started.